What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hobby Hotline Live, the only call-in show in the hobby. Live call-in every Saturday, and of course, we are joined today. My name's Drew. I'm joined by, of course, Jeremy from Sports Card Live. What's up, man?
Doing well, Drew. Looking forward to a great show this morning. How are you?
Doing good, man. And then also, I believe technical difficulties have cleared up right as we got on the air, but from Sports Card Nation, Mr. John Newman.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's cross our fingers. I might drop out. I apologize in advance. I think I can figure it out, but for now, I'm all right. But
there you go.
Don't be surprised if I pull the chute and jump out the plane.
Hey, no problem, man. You can't really control the internet sometimes. I hope everybody's having a good day. I've got the link that we just put in the chat. As always, guys, any questions, comments, anything at all, please call in. We would love to have you guys call in and let us know what's going on. But so anything happened this week?
No, it's pretty quiet. I don't know what the heck we're going to figure out to talk about. But
I mean, let's just start it off. I mean, my God, you had with PSA, complete and total shutdown, which we'll dive deep into. Shocking. And as someone who works pretty much with PSA cards for a job, as one of my jobs, that was caused me quite a bit of extra work. But then you've had some other grading companies kind of make some adjustments in response to that. We'll dive a little deeper into those as well. But I mean, we'll start off with PSA, I guess, guys. When you heard that they were completely and totally shutting down outside of Super Express, or at least for the time being, what were your guys' thoughts?
I thought it was a prudent move. I know that the general hobby is going to not be so pleased about it, but and I think that might be putting it lightly. But I think if you take a step back and try to look at it from a bird's eye view sort of perspective, they're obviously way behind in a few different areas, and by doing this, it gives them an opportunity to attempt to catch up, maybe reset, take a breath, and then open things up again. So, I mean, I think it's something that they had to do, and if they didn't, those wait times would continue to get longer and longer. So, I trust that they know what they're doing. I hope they know what they're doing better than we know what they're doing. And it's one of these moves where, either they will reap the benefits of the move, or they will pay the price one way or another. We'll see what happens. It's something that we need to look at in the future, look back on and say that worked or it didn't.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. The last part of what Jeremy said is exactly right. It's going to be a boom or bust decision, right? It's going to be something we look at 6 months from now, a year from now, and say, you know what? Some people critiqued them pretty hard when they did it, but look at it now. Or it's going to be, see, I told you so type of guys, right? Or people. So, I'm not a fan of it. I just don't like shutdowns. I know, I agree with Jeremy. I know why they're doing it. I understand the why of it. I'm not, naive to that.
Well, let's clarify, just because there were a couple people in the comments not shutting down completely. They are still taking ultra high-end submissions, and they are working. They've shut down the submission aspect, except for their ultra high-end option,
which is $300 and $600, I believe. Yes. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, unless you're sending in a mega card, or you just rich beyond disposal and you want to grade your Jose Uribe 90 Fleer for $300. But here's the thing, and this will tell you how my mind works. I'm not even saying it's normal, but one of the first things, I know, Drew, this is right up your alley too. One of the first things I thought about, one of the spots, you do it for a company. One of the sponsors of my show is Iron Sports Cards. Mm-hmm. There are companies that this is their full-time job. They went full-time in being a subber to PSA. And so my question to PSA, what are you going to do for those authorized subbers? This is their livelihood.
I can tell you right now the answer. I know.
I don't know unemployment rules with like self-employment. I don't know if they're eligible, But if I'm not, but if I was a full-time subber to PSA, what do I do? What do I tell my family? Like, hey, Dad just lost his job for 3 months.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, does it not? It doesn't stop the group subbers from accepting subs. It depends if it's on what their customers want to do. But sorry, before the other, where are they? If they don't have space to put the subs, where are they going to put them? I think that's part of the problem.
They've got the new facility that's opening up that Nat and the team are going to eventually fully move into. But as a couple of things, John, you had talked about group subbers. That is, I work with Walk-Off, and we do quite a bit of stuff. Now, luckily, we do other than just PSA, but PSA was by far and away our biggest one. And the amount of work that it's caused me talking to the people whose cards that I have, that I've been assessing, has been astronomical. And a lot of it for not, a lot of work for very little progress, so to speak. So yeah, it definitely affects those people like crazy. But in terms of the actual the pausing of submissions, like, it's not I've seen so many people say, yeah, it'll clear out the backlog, blah, blah, blah. That's not what the point is. The backlog's not getting cleared out until they've fully gotten into that space, gone in for years. And I think Nat's team will actually do a pretty good job of getting that cleared out. But it's to get the processing done. There are so many orders, and anyone that sends personal orders knows when you send, it can take months before the order is even entered into their system. That's because there's a massive room where all their UPS, FedEx, and USPS boxes go first. Well, when they whispered a price increase and people sent, the amount of cards I processed in that week went down to Florida, probably 20,000 cards just from one small group submission. I mean, the amount of cards that they got in that week is enough to fill that room. Now put into the fact it was already completely filled and it's overflowed. So it's to get the processing back and to be able to get the systems, which are obviously so overloaded that they're almost broken, fix those a little bit. It's not necessarily to clear out a backlog, but just get it to where the system somewhat works smoothly again. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I don't, like John said, I'm all for it, but I'm not, because I don't like just full and total shutdowns. But then you look at what a company like SGC did, which is what PSA could have done, is just jack the lowest price up to $150 a card and essentially pause submissions. So, I mean, it's really how you want to do it. I don't think it's going to be stopped fully until July 1st. I think you'll see small parts of the submissions and different submissions come back a little quicker than other ones. And we might even see the return of whatever they're going to call a 20-day. But,
or you could see the opposite, Drew. What if they don't? Let's think worst case scenarios. I'm that guy sometimes, right? What if they don't get caught up? What if they don't?
Well, they won't be caught up.
Yeah. Well, what if they don't make enough progress to reopen and July 1st becomes September 1st, right? And they just keep saying, hey, our target is now this date because we're not where we need to be. And let's go even past that. Whatever the reopen date for the lower level submissions is, is this going to be something we see like every year? Hey, it's sort of manual shutdown in 2022 from April to June.
They moving into the new facility, training new staff, scaling up. I mean, this gives them some time to do these things. There's been some really great comments, like training some people. The one Logan makes the comment. I think it was Logan. He says, they're gonna encounter a tsunami of submissions. So
absolutely,
by slowing down the submissions, which or suspending these various levels, sure, they're not receiving them, but it's like as soon as they open it back up, unless the pricing changes or changes and goes even higher, they are going to be confronted with a tsunami.
I think that's why you see. I think that's why they kind of built in their response that they would be opening certain service levels at once. One way to stop that tsunami is to open up slower service levels. Now, if you open up the lowest valued one right at once, you're probably going to get flooded. You open up some of the higher tiered ones gradually. I don't think you get. I mean, when they are fully open back up, yes, it's going to be a massive flood because people are going to have months of saved up cards unless they've decided to go elsewhere. I'll grade with almost any company. I like certain aspects of every single one of them that I've tried, but there's also, aspects that I don't like about all of them. So it's frustrating. James asked a good question. Should they move to the HGA model and limit submissions per week or per month?
In a way, that's what they're doing.
Yes,
though, Drew.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
The limit is 0 at certain levels, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's like Top Shot and signing up.
They're doing that. They're doing that. They're just doing it in a more extreme fashion, right? And so I get it. It's going to be one of those decisions. Hindsight being 2020, we're gonna armchair quarterback it today. Armchair grade it today. And 6 months, a year, even maybe 2 years from now, we can really assess, man, that didn't work out well, or smart move by them. I think it's too early to tell. I just worry about, maybe that's a flaw on my part, but I worry about those people that are doing it. That's their business, right?
Yep.
Who have done it a couple years, that got used to that, didn't expect something like this. It's sort of like what happened with the pandemic, right? People lost their jobs, but what do we have in the pandemic? A stimulus package, unemployment bonuses. I don't know how that applies for group subbers, or if it does. You know what I mean?
By doing what they're doing, I think it's one of these short-term pain for long-term gain type of business moves that they're making, and I understand the sympathy for the people who make their living by being group sub representatives and that sort of thing. But if it's one of these things where if they don't do this, it could be a lot worse for everybody down the road.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is that we're not dealing with, HGA. I don't know the people involved in HGA, but I know that they're new to the game. So whatever they're doing, I think what they're doing is they're controlling their inflow, and it's been very effective. And they're also creating demand through their lottery system and their limited subs per week model. So that's good for them. But I don't question the brains at PSA, especially under the new leadership.
Yes.
These guys, they're not amateurs, and they're making decisions that are hard to make. They're not making these decisions just like without thinking about the repercussions. That's not what pros do. And these guys are pros. We have to consider this. We also have to consider that we don't know all the details.
Exactly.
We know some things, but we don't know exactly what's going on there. And so we can armchair quarterback it, but we may look back and say, oh boy, we sure didn't know what we were talking about.
Well, and to tell you the truth, people there don't either. I mean, to be quite honest, this was a decision made from ownership that was not told to anybody. This was not told to reps. The reps were blindsided by every single person in that company that wasn't in those board meetings when they made that decision, was blindsided by this.
And that's what leaders do. Leaders make decisions, and sometimes those decisions come down fast. And this is a situation where something needed to be done quickly. To someone else made the comment, like, alter their business model. That's what this does. This changes their business model. And they're doing it because, and again, short-term pain, long-term gain. They know there's repercussions to this that will trickle through the whole hobby, and they know that they're going to get pushback from it, but they also know a lot more than we do about what's going on. So we just have to consider this, and in a way, we have no choice but to put our faith into that this is the right move long-term. Like it or not, short-term, right? What option do we have? We're not changing anything.
Yeah, and if you don't, then you have, like I said before, there are other grading companies you can try. There are other grading companies you can go with, and as she says,
you better hurry before they raise the prices.
Yes, I was about to say, this is the thing. We're talking about this massive avalanche of cards. Okay, the one thing that, and we talked about this when I was on last time on Hobby Hotline, that no company in this industry, whether it be grading anything in the hobby, when they're overflowed with something, the infrastructure is not built to handle it. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's Topps and their terrible website. Doesn't matter if it's Panini and their terrible website. Doesn't matter if it's grading. Doesn't matter if it's a third-party service selling cards, like a ComC, for example, or somebody. It seems that the infrastructures are not built to handle anything that happens. So if all these people say, forget it, I'm not waiting for my cards to go, well, all these other companies are going to see this massive avalanche. Can they handle it?
Quick comment. They are not built to handle the volume that they could not have predicted that came a year ago.
Of course.
And so that's, of course, right? They weren't ready for it. And the last year has been the most difficult time in history, probably, to scale a business because of restrictions. So they're getting it from all angles right now, which is why they had to make this drastic move.
Yeah, I agree. You got to give them a little bit of a pass with COVID-19 stuff going on. It's a change. It's a game changer. Obviously, we all know that.
At all levels too.
Yeah. Let's talk about SGC, and let me go first. Full disclosure, because they're a sponsor of my show. I also talked to Peter Steinberg yesterday, or Thursday, and so I'm going to be very critical, and I don't feel bad because it's nothing I didn't tell him directly to him. And I love SGC. Let me get all the preface stuff out. And I'm not even saying I loved them before they came on as a sponsor of the show. I was using them. So this is not, they're my sponsor, I love them now. This predates that. But that being said, right, there's the but, right? $75 a card. Like, I said to people, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, to me, you would have been better off almost doing kind of what PSA did, and maybe go to different levels for different things. But as much as I love SGC, I consider them really the number 2 company. I know people will argue that or think I'm nuts, but this isn't. If they are number 2, even if you agree with that, doing this is not going to keep you there. Matter of fact, it's going to get you going down the rankings very quickly, in my humble opinion. So, did nobody
notice the date? Like, come on, that too. Like, dude, you spend all year screwing with people. You literally put out ad campaigns screwing with people all year long. Well, and then on April Fool's Day, you make the one serious post.
I'll tell you a funny story piggybacking off that, Drew. So at like 4 a.m, I was sleeping. I got a text, but I didn't know I got a text. It was 4 a.m. from someone I know very well in the hobby who knows SGC's a sponsor. And like, John, I hear a rumor, and the announcement's not released yet, that SGC is going to $75 a card across the board. And I woke up, got some sort of out of my fog, and read the text and texted him back. Hey, dude, what day is today? It's April 1st. Take what you heard. It's probably a joke thing, right? If there's someone being funny, maybe even SGC themselves will have poke fun with that after their price increases suck campaign. They're gonna poke the bear with PSA, which they do all the time, right?
All the time.
Sort of their MO. So I told them, hey man, don't read too much into that. It's probably an April Fool's type deal, right? And then 3 hours later, whatever it was, right? And so even when I saw the release, I said, you know what? They could post a fake release, right? And then an hour later said, no, we're kidding, right? April Fools, everybody. We're still the same.
I went into the actual orders.
I went to like start putting cards in the sub just to see what it would put on the screen. And it was $75. And I've never picked up my phone so fast and called Peter, who I have that, and said, what are we doing, man? Like, you're not going to like me today, but I shoot from the hip and I'm an honest guy. I hope you like that aspect enough, but you're not going to like the message.
Funny, like, there's a comment, and if PSA could have seen this coming, they could have made a move. Like they could have made several moves, and they did make some moves. But if you think about it, what SGC is doing is they're reacting to what PSA did, because they're saying, oh, hey, PSA just paused. There's all these service levels. We are about to get inundated.
Big time.
What can we do to make sure that we don't repeat what happened to us last year when we came out swinging saying, hey, we're the latest greatest, and we're going to meet submission times. And if you can't get your cars back from PSA, come to us. And they did that. Peter was making the rounds, and then all of a sudden, they weren't meeting their submission times. Now they're seeing, hey, I think it actually took a lot of foresight, and again, another very tough decision for them to make. In that, sure, the timing was atrocious. They should have done it the day before or the day after. That goes without saying. But the fact is, they made a difficult decision again, knowing they're going to alienate some customers, knowing they're going to take some slack from the hobby, including one of their sponsorees in John and Sports Card Nation. But they're also being very proactive and saying, hey, we're not going to be able to handle the tsunami of submissions that will come our way like they did a year ago. Yeah. They're actually taking learned lessons and applying them into the future. And I commend them for that. We don't have to like it. It's fine. But they're actually, it's a tough, I think it's a smart move. I know you guys don't like it. I'm on the other side. I think. Oh,
no, I think it's fine with the fact if that's how they want to choose to do it. The problem I have with it is the releasing of it and how their entire marketing for a year up to it, and then just about facing and then kind of and I love Peter. I know Peter personally as well, just like John does. I talk to him on the phone, and the way even the letter was responded, it's like, yeah, we got to do this because of these people. It seems very defensive in the letter.
I'll say this. I know by the way, he watches this show sometime. I know that personally. So he might hear what I'm saying, and that's fine. This is a guy that told me we are trying to be the leader in the industry. Yes. We don't care what PSA does. We're not trying to be PSA. And what do? You say that, and then you directly respond to what PSA does.
But right? That's say it's because of them.
Me saying, hey, I don't listen to my wife. And then she says, take out the trash, John. I'm like, right away.
But the fact, John, you make a good point. Yep. The only thing I'll say to that is that PSA directly impacts their business flow. It 100%. They learned it last time. It does. So they had to respond to it. They had to respond to the action, not the people making the action.
I'm sure they even had a lot of, in our group, SGC was one of the companies that we didn't offer at that time. And as soon as PSA shut down those services, I was on the phone with Peter talking about possibly offering SGC services through walk-offs. I'm sure they were getting flooded and they knew what was about to happen. So yes, they did have to do something, or it was going to be a repeat of almost exactly a year ago. So yes, they had to do something. It's just.
And instead of saying we're now, instead of extending their return times, they just increase the price. You gotta pick your strategy, and the one they picked is basically doing what the hobby wants them to do in terms of reducing the base cards being submitted for grading across all companies. You know what the hobby needs, or could you, and eventually is like a 2-year submission on $5 grading for cards that aren't really worth grading. Mm-hmm. That's something that nobody is doing right now. I think they'd like to, but the scale isn't there. And the scale isn't there because the demand wasn't there at the beginning, at the end of 2019. No one could have predicted what happened. And again, scaling has become 10 times harder now than it would have been in 2019. So
I agree, Jeremy. The only thing I'll say, and this is because I like SGC, I'm worried about them.
Good thing you like them, John.
But I'm worried about these decisions. I think we all can at least agree on this. These decisions impact even your future business. If you read social media, and I know people can post one thing and then change your mind. I get that, right? But they are getting crucified on social media. This is the end. I just turned in my last sub 2 weeks ago. I'm not even going to deal with them when they come back, if they come back at normal levels. I'm washing my hands of them. A lot of it's coming from what me and Drew just said, is all those social media, those marketing campaigns where we don't care about PSA. We're doing stuff our own way. A lot of people are taking the hypocrite line that because they're like that they'll just move on. And so I just worry for them. And they probably be all right. Who knows, right? But I worry for them that this is going to impact them past the point of $75
It
a
will.
card.
It for certain it will, but we all have short memories in terms of these things. If their slabs gain value and gain more respect relative to the market leader PSA, we're gonna look past this, especially if they scale and they can bring their prices down to a more tolerable point, and their turnaround times are improved because of scaling. I mean, we're just in a really awkward place that we've never been in before. And if, in a couple of years, which is a long time now, but, it's like people say to me, your kid, in a blink of an eye, your kids are moving out sort of thing. Well, in a blink of an eye, this will be behind us too.
Yep.
And we'll have moved on. It's tough right now, but we will get through this as a hobby, and all these companies many will survive. Hopefully they do. It's going to come down to the ultimate leadership at these companies. And, if you're assessing leadership, I don't know Peter. I've seen him on social. I've seen him on interviews and stuff, but I don't know him. I've never had a conversation with him. But so we just need to we have no choice but to wait it out and see what happens, make the best of it. And for the group subbers who are impacted by it, you have to adapt. If you have to adapt, you have no choice. You have to eat. You have to adapt to eat.
Well, we do have a caller on the line, so we'll bring him in now. Regular on the show, Mr. Kevin Jones. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hi, Kevin.
I hopped in a little late this morning, but really enjoying the discussion. I feel like there is a silver lining to this in that, for PSA to slow down their submissions for 90 days, or essentially stop them. All those bulk submissions, everybody's cards, they're going to get them back. And, as I said in the comments, there's going to be a huge avalanche of cards that will be about to flood the market if this logjam breaks free. So hopefully in the short term, the buyers or the submitters will get their cards back and be able to continue to move their product to kind of stop the bleeding if they're relying on these submissions. So, in a way, it's a good thing that people are going to be getting their cards back. And we'll kind of see the full extent, I feel like, how many submissions is PSA really sitting on. So I'm hoping that when the logjam breaks free, that it's going to help people out in the short term, and 90 days is going to fly by. And ultimately, after this logjam is cleared, people could potentially get their cards back quicker in the future, as opposed to having to wait 12 to 18 months potentially for something. So, the 3 months I feel like is going to go really quick. And I don't feel like it's not going to be the apocalyptic scenario I feel like people are thinking. So I don't know. I think there's a silver lining. John was mentioning too about, back last year at this time, SGC was like, send us your cards. And then they got inundated and they got backed up.
Got what they wanted.
And I still feel like it's a great opportunity for these other companies to position themselves, to challenge, to fight for that number two. Like John, I am an SGC fan as well, as like a backup option, and I think they're highly respected and have a beautiful slab. But they should be going on a big, I think, PR campaign. These companies getting on all these live streams, talking with so-called influencers. Show some transparency in their grading process, and it's a great opportunity, I think, for somebody to really jump in and capitalize and grab a larger market share of that number two spot. And I just was kind of curious what everybody thought on that.
Well, Kevin, let me you said you're an SGC fan. Let me get your opinion on the timing of that decision on April 1st, no less. Like Jeremy said, you could have did that on March 31st. You could have did that on April 2nd. It's 24 hours either way. Like, why? I just think, like, that's sort of boneheaded. I don't care how smart the people in the room. One smart guy had to stand up and say, Peter, let's do it
Dude.
the 2nd or the 31st. Let's not do this on April Fool's.
Dude.
It's just gonna set wrong right off the jump.
Yeah, John, that was a blunder for sure, but it's not the topic at hand though either, right?
No, I agree. But it does
could have waited 12 hours, but
it does start you off on the wrong foot right off.
If we're talking about marketing, let's be honest. I mean, it's the marketing team who kind of put some of that together. So I mean, let's at least switch them out. If we're going to start that marketing, let's get someone else in there that at least has a calendar open with the right year on it.
Yeah, people make mistakes in companies all the time, you know, and you know, it's a harsh move to just terminate their employment but hey, you know, if it's that or the business goes under and everybody loses a job, sure. But I mean, I think, you know, and we're very unforgiving, it seems, as a hobby, not us four, but you know, as a hobby in the short term. So
very much.
Does this seem like to anybody here? I'll throw this out as an open question. Does anybody feel like this is that there's going to be a shift for raw cards in the short term, and that this could help the raw card market in the short term?
I mean, I've already seen it. I've got one of my business partners is set up at the Raleigh show right now, and raw has been moving like crazy, and the demand has been there. I know cards that have sat on my eBay with the exact same price for a long time that were raw have been getting scooped up. I mean, the demand is there. I mean, you see people all the time saying this stuff is dipping, this stuff's dipping. You can pinpoint any couple of auctions to make that point. You know, I mean, looking at it as a whole, it's obvious that it's an ebb and flow system. It always is, and it's still rising. But I've seen raw cards, at least from my experience, I've seen the demand increase for them. I've seen less people. I've seen less people asking so much about condition and more about grabbing the cards. You know, I'd get a lot of the how are the corners, how is the surface, a lot less of those. It's been a week.
Sorry, a lot of these issues are based on collector greed versus company greed, right? We are sending these cards in because the market's been hot. We want to pay as little as we can to grade them for a maximum return on value based on their brand, based on their slab. And you know, if you think about it, the hobby, there's a comment there. Chris Chandler says cards are already dipping. Well, yeah, they're dipping since January, but they're way up since a year ago. The hobby is trajectory.
Well, it depends on the market. I mean, the hockey market has been way up for me. The soccer market for me, I just put a comment on Facebook. I've got 8 packages going out today. Every single one of them is soccer. That a year ago, 3 months ago, that wasn't the case. I had them, but nobody wanted them. I mean, certain markets are always going to move. Certain ones always come and go. And like I said, depending on your framework and your thought process, you can find almost anything to support.
Kevin makes a great point. Kevin makes a great point. I think 2 things are going to happen. I think what Kevin said is going to happen. I think there's going to be more of a look at raw cards. I think people are going to say, hey, I want to buy raw. I think people are always buying raw cards. I don't think it's something that's just someone's turning on a light switch. I think that's just going to increase. Some people might just buy raw cards with the intent to sit on them, right? And if these things are in decent shape, once this grading comes back down, assuming that's going to be the case to normal operating levels and price levels, hey, I got 50 cards now. I had 10, but now I got 50 ready to be slabbed all of a sudden. So I think that's going to happen. And I think on the graded card end, you're going to start to see obviously 9s and 10s that are already in the marketplace start to sell very quick, quicker with less haggling. Buy it nows. And hey, it's they're selling that card. Whatever card, an Acuna that's Archives rookie, it's $75. That's what I can't even get it graded for that. I can buy it. I can buy it already slabbed. So
a good example is going to be like when hoop stuff comes back graded, which is going to start coming back soon. When a good amount of lamellos and things like that, you can't send that stuff in now. You can't send Prism in now. You can't get a lot of those other new cards of his out now. You've got one graded card that a whole massive market's chasing after. You're going to see a lot of these cards that come out that are just sitting in this processing cycle from the last 6-8 months that we haven't even seen yet. A lot of really big ones for a lot of really big sports that are either playing, just starting, or coming up soon, that are going to start hitting the market while we look at this. So
exactly.
Can I just respond to Mike Geo? He responded to my comment. He said if a customer wants to pay less money, pay less and make more, it's greed. But if a company can triple their price and offer the same service, that's not greed. It's sure it's partially it's I think their initial motivation there is it's called flow control. That's what they're doing. They're trying to save their business in their long term rather than just make a few extra bucks in the short term. So these companies have very few levers that they can pull right now.
It's a way to pause submissions.
The ultimate lever would be increase capacity and keep pricing the same. That option just doesn't really exist right now in a fast enough manner. So the only lever they have to pull on to alter their business flow is price. So it's not greed, to Mike Geo. It isn't. I mean, it isn't if you understand how that works, because it looks like it, and that's where the hobby goes. But again, you have to step back and look from the bird's eye view and say, listen, this is all they can do to tweak their flow, and tweaking their flow is all they're trying to do here. They're not trying to alienate customers. They are as a consequence, but that's not what they're trying to do. So, and then just to someone else said, cards are down. Oh, Chris says Kobe's and LeBron's are down in the last 4 to 6 weeks. Well, of course they are. We have cycles in this hobby all the time. That's nothing new. So sure, they're down in the last 4 to 6 weeks, but they're still up 10 times what they were a year ago. So, I mean, you got to pick your perspective. You can certainly pick one that suits you, but you also, you got to maybe step a little bit back.
Well, let's talk about who's now in the cockpit and how are they going to respond? And obviously they're going to get an onslaught. It's CSG now. They haven't announced. They haven't announced a price raise yet. I don't know if that's coming.
Look,
GMA. I gotta laugh. GMA released the press release that they're raising prices to protect your cards. Is really what that is. But I'll be nice and go back to CSG. What are they going to do? They were already a buzz with them before all this stuff, all these shoes dropped. So now that thing gets intensified. Are they going to release a press release saying, hey, it's now $50, it's now $60, whatever, right? Everyone's going to be looking at that and what's next from them.
We should get Mike Geo to call in because he's saying
he's awesome. He's Mike Geo. I know him well. He's the host of Sports Card Nonsense. He's a great guy.
Well,
Feel free to call in, bud.
Please call in, Mike, because you're saying what I said is a joke, but not all they can do. So I want that's fair comment, but back it up. What can they do that you are 100% certain they can do because you're behind closed doors? Again, it's easy to armchair quarterback. We all do it. But I'm curious, what am I missing? I'd really like to know what Mike's perspective is or insight is into that, because I'm open-minded. I'm open to being. If I'm wrong, let me know. I will graciously accept that, especially if what I said was a joke, because I don't think it is. I'm not coming at it from a lack of experience. I'm coming at it from understanding, and also the good of the hobby in the long run is what I want, So a joke.
I'll hop off and let hopefully Mike does come on. But I wanted to say, hopefully, again, I'm kind of looking at this with the silver lining, hoping I get the 2 submissions that I have in at PSA back quicker. And hopefully,
I have two.
Say somebody who was getting ready to do a bulk submission maybe Monday, right? Yep. And they're going to mail it Tuesday, and all of a sudden this news dropped. There is the potential that when things open up again, and I think staggering it's a good idea, a staggered rollout when they start taking more submissions, but there is the possibility that they could ultimately get their cards back quicker. From PSA than if things were just running the way they are now. So that's just kind of a silver lining to look at it. And for those who are kind of feeling maybe a little not sure what to do, look at that submission you were going to do and, sell some of the stuff raw. And I think it could be a good buying opportunity for people for raw. So great to be on, guys. I always appreciate your time and thank you so much.
Absolutely, Kevin. Thanks for calling in. Kevin. And Mike, yeah, buddy, when you call in here, I'll put the link right here in the chat. When you call in, just if you don't want the camera, just disable the camera option right there. Right before you call on, it'll give you all the options. Oh, NFT talk going on in the comments. There's
let me I see the NFT talk. I'll make my take very simple because anyone that listens knows my take. If it's not a physical item, even fractional shares, there's a physical item beyond that fractional share. If it's just in air, if it's blockchain, and here's my Mano NFT. I don't believe in it. You got to have something of substance. I know Top Shot's blowing up, not at my house, right? So I get it. If you want to make money, if you are making money at it, God bless you. Keep going. But I don't know. Maybe it's because of my age. Like to me, it's either exists or it doesn't exist. I don't believe in that. Really.
And I was in that kind of same
with cards. I'm not talking about religion.
Well, I was in that same boat until I signed up for Top Shot just to see what it was. And I turned, I think, $30 into like $5,000. And I didn't think it was really real either until the real stuff. Yes, I did. Yes. Right. I was forced to. When you get approved, they force you to. So it became really real when it hit my bank account.
Well, who lost $4,970? That's how that,
Well, we do have Mike Geo calling in, so we're going to add him to the show. He is the host of Sports Card Nonsense. What's up, man?
Hey, what's happening? I am a mess. I got my first COVID shot. I feel like I've been hit by a truck, so my face is not in good shape when I feel good. Never mind today. I figured I would spare you. Let me say this, Jeremy. I should have rephrased that, and I do think writing messages like I wrote are fairly useless. I have a problem with a company that says the day after we have major changes, hey, you know what our solution is? Because we've fumbled things so badly in the past, which they have, let's triple our pricing and do nothing else. So if you're telling me they did it to slow submissions and just to slow down to keep the state of the hobby healthy, no problem. Just limit your intake then. When your first thought process, though, is, hey, it's a cash grab now, we can triple. The other problem I wouldn't have, I'd actually respect them, is if they simply came out and said, you know what, the hobby is higher now than it's ever been. Everybody's making a ton of money. We're tripling our price because we can and because we still think it's worth it. I respect that. I just have trouble with the whole price increase. What else are you offering me, SGC? Because last time you had any sort of a marketing thing, it was return times are great. And after like a week, when you got bogged down, you shut down. So I do struggle with SGC in that regard.
Yeah, no, I think those are very fair comments. I appreciate the additional insight to your original comment. I mean, the levers they have are controlling their flow, which they can do by, as you said, changing their price. Increasing the price will slow it down, and it will also. The other one is they could. What did you say? Limit their intake. Now that limiting the intake requires some logistical changes as well. So they could have probably done that, but I don't know that it was something that they could just flip the switch on. Whereas changing the price is an easier switch. Now it also, and I mean, obviously every company's in business to make money. So I still don't think it was done from the perspective of greed. Is it from the perspective of capitalizing on an issue? I mean, if you think about the formula that they're going to apply to this when they make the decision, it's going to be X amount of submissions times the current price point. And at the lower price point, the submissions are higher. If they're going to increase the price, the submissions are going to come down. I think what they're trying to do is find the balance, and they could have raised it to $100 or $150, and that would have put them into a position where maybe their business is in jeopardy. Maybe there isn't enough money coming in to pay the bills. So there's different ways that they have to look at it to analyze the situation. This is a legitimate business case, and I heard someone say it not too long ago. There will or should be a Harvard business case scenario built around what's going on in the hobby right now. you mentioned the word blunder and that they blundered in the past. The blunder in the past was because they couldn't predict the amount of flow that they were going to receive. And nobody could have, especially if you think back to a year ago exactly. We thought the sky was falling, and we thought that our cards were going to go down to worth very little because people needed to eat, and people were lining up to get to buy basic essentials. So what good is a card? But that the opposite happened, and so they were blindsided. All the companies in the hobby were blindsided by that at the time. And but I do agree with Mike. The blunder was that they said what they said a year ago. They were inundated with submissions, and they did not have the scale to handle them. Now they are pulling a lever that they have available to them. Reducing submissions would still maybe they analyzed it. Maybe, I don't know for sure because I'm not behind closed doors, but maybe they did analyze it, and they came to the conclusion that, hey, there's still going to be too many cards for us to process. So maybe under their analysis, raising the price was the move that provided them with the proper flow to be able to handle. So neither of us know, Mike, what those analyses look like. But maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Maybe they aren't business people. Maybe they're not. And maybe that's not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm giving them way too much credit.
And I think, honestly, I don't even think it's a disagreement of you and me on the situation. I think we just come at this very different, which is nothing wrong with it. I think you are much more positive. Those who know me know I come at it from a very critical, in business especially. I look at this and I say, which model has worked and been received well by the masses lately? And on a small scale, the HGA thing has been, hey, let's do it. And I'm not sitting here selling HGA. Plenty of screw-ups on their end. But I would say this, people love that lottery system. That's limited your intake, and it's given you a good perception with the public. SGC, I just feel like, and you know what? Maybe there are smart guys behind the closed doors. I don't think anyone ever in touch with the actual hobby. I've reached out and I've talked to these people. I think there's a major disconnect there. And I just feel like if you thought you limiting, like you're saying, and I think it's a valid illustration, right? What lever do you pull to slow down cards coming in? I think you chose the one that would slow things down, but would also make you look the worst to the most amount of people in the hobby. That's just I just look. You triple your price. What are you doing now, SGC, that helps me out that you weren't doing a year ago? And the answer is nothing.
I agree.
Are SGC cards selling higher now? Like, here's my thing too. You want to charge triple the rates? Do me a favor. Go on a major marketing campaign and show me why SGC slabs are now going to sell more. Instead, we get blind statements on April Fool's Day that were made by, and honestly, maybe the guy's smarter than me. He could be, I have no clue. You come off as a dummy. To do that on April Fool's, to do that any day of the week, it just, and you also do it and take shots at PSA, which I have trouble with. The only issue with PSA I had was if you knew you were going to shut down anyways, shut down a month ago. Don't jack up your prices and then shut down. But for SGC to sit there and throw stones at PSA, it's laughable. Hey, PSA did this, so we have to do this. That's like me saying, hey, I sell 10 candy bars a year, and then, when Mars raises their prices, well, I could raise it too because they did. No, you're talking about an industry leader and a guy who's fighting to be, at this point, like third, fourth, fifth. I mean, that discussion to me, although I take Beckett out because I think they're absolutely worthless at this point. But my only reason I want to call it is actually, I feel like you're very well spoken to this, Jeremy. I didn't mean to say your opinion was a joke. I just feel like that company is being run like a joke. I did want to clarify because that wasn't the intention I had when I made that comment. So I did just want to at least mention that. See, I can be forgiven.
No, Mike, thank you.
This is a very rare moment. Hold on.
No. I appreciate that, and it's a great thing you came on, Mike. So thank you very much. And I'm gonna take a little bit of it on the chin and say, adjusting adjusting the maximum amount of cards that they bring in every day, week, month, whatever, is another lever that they could have pulled, that they could have tweaked. I will say with that, again, that there's logistics involved there that we don't really know. So I don't know what that would have looked like for them. But to your point, yes, alienating a lot of people, cutting themselves in the throat, and to a degree, if the people leading that company, and I don't know them at all, they're not sponsors of my show, I've never had them on my show, so I don't know. But if the decisions they make are digging their own grave, the faster they do it and just get out of the hobby landscape, the better, and we can move on, and someone bigger and better will come up and absorb and scale and absorb their demand. So, get out of the way then, SGC. If you can't play in the environment, then just buy. I mean, so, and maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe the moves they're making are gonna lead to that result. Maybe not, though. Again, we'll know in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But thank you, Mike. I greatly appreciate you calling in and clarifying.
Good deal. All right, guys. Hey, have a good day. I appreciate the time. Have a good one.
Yeah, man. Have a good one, Mike.
And let's go back to, we're banging on SGC. Heck, I did a fair share myself, so I'm not going to sit here and backtrack off what I said. I don't do that. Sure. But PSA, even with their decision, guys, like another thing, again, we know why they made the decision for the most part. We understand the timing of it. We understand what the end goal, or most of what the end goal probably is. But why not? The thing I don't like is the lack of communication, right, with the people who do direct business with them that had no clue, were blindsided. I know they're going to say, hey, we couldn't tell them, because then they would let the cat out of the bag ahead of what we wanted it to go. But I think you owe that loyalty to people that are loyal to you, to at least give them some sort of inclination that this is coming.
Are you talking about PSA, John?
Yeah.
Bring in Rich Klein real quick.
All I'll say to that, John, is that if they would have given that courtesy to their staff and the group subbers, they would have had to have kept the floodgates open for a few extra days, would have exacerbated the problem. And sometimes, these decisions just need to come down swiftly and upset a lot of people. But I understand from a human perspective, and that everything you're saying, yeah, definitely merit to that. But not all of these big drastic measures are going to make everybody happy. And if there's one thing we all know, you can't make everybody happy with anything that you do. So, but I hear you, man. Hi, Uncle Rich.
What's up,
Hey,
Rich?
Jeremy. How are you, young man?
Good.
I'm going to be 80 by the time your kids are out of the house. So.
I saw that. I'll be old too. I'm not as young as I look. Oh,
You're younger than me still. First, I'll start with a promotion. Jeremy, full disclosure, as many of you know, I work for ComC, and Jeremy's going to have Tim on tonight. And Tim Getz, our CEO, and I think this conversation is a really good way to go. I think it's very appropriate for what Tim has to deal with.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree.
I think so. I think a situation like this would, I think you do that, you'll get a lot out of Tim. So that's just, we'll get that out of the way, but I want to promote that. But I want to point out something else. We're talking about delays and price increases. Did anybody notice Topps Heritage was a month late this year? Did anybody see the note that Gypsy Queen's going to be 3 months delayed? I don't know what else is going to be delayed, but I guarantee you there's a lot of products that aren't coming out on time. This delay is not just affecting the grading companies. It's affecting how we're getting our product.
The reason for it, John, is my understanding, a lot of it just has to do with the fact that the printing, the third-party printing, these companies, none of them make their own cards.
No, Cardamom CGI.
They're all outsourced to third-party printing vendors, and there's only a couple of these vendors that do it. So they're all queued up with the same vendors trying to get their cards printed. And these printing companies, to scale right now, to have the staff shoulder to shoulder, you just can't do that in business right now. You can't put people shoulder to shoulder. So there's limitations. The output of the third-party printing companies is limited from what it used to be. On top of that, let's say you had all the money in the world and you want to build another production facility, and you want to put in more printing equipment and more cutting equipment and more sorting equipment. To do that, you need vendors for that. Those vendors are under the same restrictions and the same limitations that everybody is under because of COVID implications. So I've heard people say, enough of the COVID excuses, figure it out already. You've had a year to figure it out. No, you haven't. You've had a year to live in it. Nothing has changed. So scaling, as I've said throughout the morning, scaling isn't as easy as throwing money at it. It just isn't. No. So,
okay, sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there for a second, Jeremy. But when you come down to Dallas next month, and I know you said there was a 15% chance. I know Drew and John are coming down. you're across the street from my ComC office. You're also about a quarter to a half mile away from CGI. You obviously won't be able to get in there, but I can show you where the building is. Okay. I mean, the good thing right now, Texas, you do have permission to be 100% capacity for businesses. So
John, as of when?
March 15th. It was. I don't want to get into the politics, but Governor Abbott did.
It's very instructive.
There were various reasons,
right? But it's very instructive as to how we criticize all the companies and scaling. It all comes down to scalability. We know that money isn't the limitation; it's scalability. So, if you could just go to 100% capacity on March 15th, we've had 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to scale. It's going to take months to bounce back, right? Just because you can go shoulder to shoulder doesn't mean you can build a facility or scale that quick. So I hear what you're saying, and that's encouraging for all of us because that tells me that we're going to get there quicker than we otherwise would have.
It's a little before March 15th, but Kyle's show, his last show was just after the people restriction was limited, and I will tell you, it was kind of packed. So, but I also wanted to point out, we were talking about the grading card at the last show. I usually have 2 boxes. I don't have a lot of grading cards. I have 1 box of, let's say, higher end grading cards that go into a showcase, and then 1 $5 to $25 graded cards that just stay in a box. Do you know I sold half my box of the cheap graded cards at the last show, and it took me a while to realize people were just buying them because they didn't want to spend $50 to send a card in. They figured if the card was graded and was said $10 that's fine by me.
Yep. And I think that's why when Kevin had asked his initial comment, I think on Raw and on other stuff, I think some of the reasons some of the cards that I've seen sell this week and the slabs for all higher prices were that exact reason was because people didn't want to wait to get a card graded, saw the card that they want and either said, I have one, but I don't know if it's going to 10, so I'll grab it. Or they said, I don't have one, I'll just grab one Raw real quick.
Yeah, my slabs account, I was getting notifications every 2 hours. This is sold. This is sold. So it's a direct correlation to the grading news. And it's funny, not that I care. I mean, I care about a lot of things, but I don't want to be rude. But, there's that anti-grading segment in the hobby, right? The people who don't grade, don't buy grading cards. Mm-hmm. They're looking at this right now and just holding the belt up and claiming the championship, right?
Yeah, walking out like Stone Cold. Yep.
You know who else is like Ultra Pro and the magnetic companies? Jeez. I mean, all of a sudden, that's a great alternative to a slab. And we know there's already a shortage on supplies in the hobby. Every company is dealing with issues right now, and it's trickling down to the collector, of course, and the flipper and the investor. Can I just say a quick comment on ComC, because I've seen some of the chat make comments like what's going on there. So and I'll plug my show now. Thank you. Tonight I do have the founder and CEO Tim Getch. He will be on Sports Cards Live at 10 o'clock Eastern, and we're going to go for 2 hours, and he's going to explain exactly what has been going on there, why their customer experience has been suffering. So if you want to know why your cards are taking so long to get to you, come watch the show and listen to what Tim has to say. He's not coming to make excuses. He's coming to explain and just be open and transparent and pull the curtain back. And I talked to him for a full hour the other day, and he explained to me a lot of things that were very, very I get it now. I understand why. It's not just that you can't pull cards from a box and ship them. There's a lot of factors going on. So I encourage people to come watch that tonight. If you want to be in the know, if you want to understand, come watch.
Absolutely, definitely.
I'm gonna be honest and watch Sports Cards Live tonight. But I'm gonna pick on Richie. I think he's slacking. I think he's got to put it into another gear. And the problem. I think it's Rich's fault. I figured I'd tell him that while he was on there and be at least up front.
There you go.
Hey, if I could go to Washington and ship cards, I would. It's 2,000 miles away, and I'm not planning on moving real fast.
So before we wrap up, guys, there was
one. I moved my office last week, so that was quite an interesting adventure in itself.
I'm sure.
Same complex, but 4 hours. Stefan and Angela and I moved our office in 4 hours. So that was pretty impressive.
Nice.
But the one thing, Tim went in a lot more detail with Jeremy, but I'm just going to put this in a different perspective. My wife and mother-in-law swear by a car mechanic down the street from me, and he's pretty good. But if I drop off my car with him, 2 people handle everything there. Him as the owner and maybe 1 mechanic, or him. So it's 1 to 2 people. If I go to the dealership to drop off my car for service, 13 different people handle something about my account while I'm there. And that's one of the differences of a place like ComC sending out stuff compared to, let's say, if Jeremy was sending out stuff from Sports Slots or eBay or whatever.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That'll be an interesting discussion tonight for sure.
Hey, Drew, Bo from 1 Million Cubs. I don't know if that's where you were going.
That's exactly where I was going. Before we wrapped up today, there's another, while we have Rich, you on as well. I know you talked to a lot of people involved with the National as well, but the Chicago show scheduled for June in the same venue was canceled.
That's Mitch LaRock's, I believe, Chicago Sports Spectacular, and that's went down. And obviously, everyone sees that, and it's it's the obvious thing. You turn now to the National and say, is this going to happen? I had Ray Schulte on last week. He said they're going ahead full steam, but he also said, as he has to, and as he should, that they also have to abide by state and government mandates. And so that's why the Chicago Sports Spectacular got canceled. And so the National, regardless of what we say, is at least in limbo. I don't want to say jeopardy, maybe too strong of a word, but definitely in air quotes, limbo, right? Until, we got these vaccines rolling out. I just watched the news. I got mine yesterday. My arm hurts like I'm pitching back in high school again. And that was a long time ago. And, we got a lot. I think we're going to be like, I think I saw the news. If you believe the news, half the U.S. is going to be vaccinated very soon here. Again, that's all speculation, I guess. I don't know how they know that. Well, I'm sure they track it. But if that continues to progress, I mean, we are getting close. We're one day closer to the National today than we were yesterday. It's the last couple days in July and the first few in August. It's getting closer. It's, one thing Ray said, and I'll hear what you guys think too, is they're not moving it to another venue. It's not going. He's heard the rumors. He heard Dallas. He's heard where else? Another city. He said it's not getting moved. He didn't say anything about pushback. He left that sort of off the table. And so he said it's going to be Chicago or not Chicago or not happening.
Well, you say that. I honestly think, John, and I'll be interested, Rich, since you're right down there in Dallas, but, the rumors about them moving it, him saying no, I honestly don't think that the National is going to be moved whatsoever, but I think that in a lot of people's eyes, that Dallas show in a month might look a whole lot more appealing than the National looks in terms of both booking reservations and it actually still being a show. I could see a massive increase in that Dallas show due to this news right here.
Jeremy, Drew, I will tell you, last November, the show was the National of 2020. Yeah. And I mean, there were people who, Steve Aoki came in with his gas mask. I mean, the pre-promotion for that show was amazing. It was, Brad and I did a bit from the show. And by the way, we'll be doing in breaking news, we will do a live hobby hotline from that show on Saturday, May 22nd, since so many of us will be there.
Yes.
So we will be at my table doing the live hobby hotline. Everybody's welcome to stop by if you're at the show. Last time we did it, we literally drew people in as they were walking by. So we may do that again to you. If you're unfortunately walking by my table at Saturday, 10 a.m., you may be behind the camera. But, I guarantee you, I've talked to John Brogy about this. He does his due diligence. He's called the Dallas Convention Center. He's called all these people. And it's not so easy to say, snap your fingers, the National's coming. There's a backlog of events already scheduled for the Dallas Convention Center. There's a backlog of events already scheduled. And right now, the Dallas Convention Center is being used to house the influx of migrants coming across. I believe there are 3,000 kids there. I don't think you can have an event right now if you have 3,000 migrant kids at the Dallas Convention Center.
Different crowd.
And here's the other thing Ray said on the show, you know, because I mentioned, what about pushing it back 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? I guess, and I don't know, I'm not a Mary Kay guy or my wife, thankfully, but Mary Kay, I guess, does a big convention there, and they have it reserved a lot. So that's really that would kind of be a monkey wrench into maybe just dropping back a few weeks, a month, and whatnot. So the way he made it sound, I don't want to put words in his mouth. It's going to either happen sort of on the date it's scheduled for, or we may see a repeat of 2020, which that would really be, you know, kind of suck, for lack of a better word. I know we're sort of anointing in Dallas, and I know why, and I don't think it's wrong to sort of 2020, like Rich just said, that became the sort of de facto national because the national didn't place, and maybe it's going to be the case in 2021 again. You know, I hope not, but again, they have to abide by what the powers in place dictate.
I do think it's good, though, for overall just growing that Dallas show, like we were talking about a couple of episodes ago. I think you getting those bigger shows where you're getting people from around the country wanting to go to. I think those destination events, those big shows, I think we're in a natural time in the hobby where there needs to be more of them. And I think that the Dallas show is a perfect one. And I think there's going to be quite a big turnout from out of town that wouldn't normally be there, myself included, because of whether it be because of possibly not attending the national or just the overall growth of the hobby. But Jeremy, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, for anyone who wants to know why the national doesn't move here or there, you know, listen to John's Sports Card Nation with Ray Schulte, because Ray did a great job of explaining what they need to go into a new market and host a show. And it's not as simple as just there's a big convention center there. There are lots of factors at play. So John's episode was an excellent eye opener for myself, and I'm sure it would be for a lot of people to understand what goes into moving that show.
Yeah, a lot of demographics. You know, and then dealers too, guys. You know, people are traveling not just from all states, but out of country. There's people coming from the hobby is worldwide, and people are coming from Germany, Sweden, Norway to what I call the Super Bowl of the hobby. And so again, like Ray said, and thank you, Jeremy, for the plug there. You know, it's not as easy as just saying, hey, we're meeting at this person's house instead of this person, like a fantasy baseball draft, right? We're not doing it here. We're doing it at Joe's house, right? There's hotel, there's parking, demographics. Even if you find a place, you got to hope no one else has reserved it for that date. And so there's just so much in play. And if one thing, that's the thing, I hope if you listen, if one thing doesn't jive, it doesn't plug in, that's it. It only takes one thing to not make it possible. So
I personally would not be surprised if the national for this year goes into a different kind of schematic, which is less corporate and more dealer based. Because one of the things is the corporates would get with Alan Nars does his card thing, his card, I forgot what they call it, but when Alan Nars does the Tops thing, and when Panini has their redemption lines and all those people, they are filling up the booths, and that's not necessarily COVID friendly yet.
Right.
So you can control the amount of people at a dealer table a lot easier than you can control the amount of people at the corporate booths. I would, especially at the Rosemont, where there's enough meeting rooms. I would not be surprised to see every corporate get a meeting room as part of their package to do things that they can prepare for people to have a much more orderly thing, rather than the Card Wars from Alan Nars, or, as I said, the Panini Redemptions, or whatever Upper Deck does with Redemptions. sort of like what ComC did at the last national in Chicago, where we had a conference room. Tim spent a lot of his time in there, and so did the people who were shipping out boxes. And you would get at the booth, and there was never really an overly crowded booth. And I think that's the way to go. And it may be a little trickier, but it'll prevent the running of the bulls. It'll also stop the stampede. And yes, you can still have corporate participation, and I understand the money element of it, but you might have more dealers, and that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world either.
How would you, John, because you interviewed Ray Schulte and Rich, because you talked to Brogy and these guys, there's the comment that Rich Frank makes, says MLB moves the All-Star game no problem. What are the differences between the MLB moving the All-Star game and the National moving the National?
Besides them being Major League Baseball, I mean,
here's the thing.
They control their stadiums too.
One of the differences this year is I think a lot of the events were more symbolic. Yeah. I don't think FanFest was really going to be prepared, so you don't have the crush of FanFest. MLB does have contracts with hotels. Mm-hmm. They can probably get hotels for the players pretty easily. They can probably get that done, and you just move the game. Let's say they moved it to Dallas. There's a hotel next door. They can book all the rooms the day of the All-Star game.
What about the venue itself? Like, is Mary Kay doing their big conventions at MLB stadiums such that they couldn't book it in?
Here's the thing. There's not going to be many live people to watch the game. This is like Rich just said, corporate. This is going to be for TV. This is going to be maybe some people in suites, very little, a certain amount in each suite at wherever the game takes place. My idea, since you're not really having a lot of people going to the game to watch it live anyway, have it at the Field of Dreams Park in Dyersville, Iowa. How cool would that be? I know they're playing, the White Sox and Yankees are scheduled to play there, but how about an all-star game where when the new pitcher comes in, he comes running out of the cornfield? Like how honestly,
love it.
How cool would that be? We'll be talking about that for 20, 30 years. They'll make a 30 for 30 about it. The day the All-Star game was in Dyersville, right? They're not losing because I don't think they're having live fans anyway. The corporate can still come to that area and have tents and booths and pop-up things, and the game can still be broadcast. The White Sox-Yankees game is going to be on TV. Put the All-Star game there too. I'm sure the Field of Dreams movie site, which .com, little plug for them, is if they're hearing this or get what they're probably like, maybe I got a new job. But I would love that as a baseball fan. Imagine, you watch that movie, it's an iconic movie, and then here's all the best players in the game on that field currently, and just added the added element, have them come out of that cornfield when they enter the game. Like people who don't even like baseball would watch that because they like the movie, right?
Yep. No, I agree. I think it'd be awesome. All right, y'all. Well, we are about 12:15, so I guess had a little bit of overtime today, but I guess if we're all good, we'll wrap it up until next week. Thanks, everybody, for calling in. Please check us out. All of the shows are uploaded to Spotify a couple of days later. So we actually have to put up last week's as well. So we'll put this week's show and last week's up here today. And make sure to catch Jeremy's Sports Card Live tonight. John Newman, I know, just put out on yesterday, put out a new episode of Sports Card Nation. And we just put out a new letter rip. And Uncle Rich, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Always good to see
you. Ship me my ComC cards, man. Ship me my ComC cards.
Ask Jeremy tonight on the show to ask him. There you go.
There you go. All right. Everybody. Thank you, guys, and we will see you guys next time. But y'all have a great Easter, and we'll see you next week.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Peace.